Ladies and gentlemen, friends, first of all, I would like to extend a heartfelt welcome to the witnesses and survivors of conflict-related sexual violence who have so bravely stepped forward to tell their stories, so that this crime is not forgotten and this injustice does not go unpunished. We must make sure that the world knows about the atrocities of sexual violence that have been committed in numerous countries throughout Asia and Pacific. And I commend the organizers of this hearing for providing the platform for survivors to be seen and heard. Sadly, sexual violence is a scourge that knows no boundaries. And we have seen the devastating effects in the Americas, in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, and in Asia and the Pacific. Those of you who are here today to give testimony come from several countries, including Bangladesh, Nepal, Cambodia, and Timor-Leste. Yet you represent millions of women around the world. We will never know the real numbers of women subjected to this crime, but your being here today helps give a voice to the multitudes of untold survivors who suffered and continue to suffer in shame and silence. It is only now, sometimes decades after the carnage has occurred, that the enormous scale and the systematic nature of these atrocities are coming to light. These were not minor crimes or secondary byproducts of a conflict, but in some cases a central part of war strategy and organized crime against humanity. In Bangladesh, Cambodia, Nepal, and East Timor, for example, we have seen a wide array of sexual violence and the many forms it can take. As more and more of your stories come to light, the world is taking notice of this atrocious crime. In some cases, special tribunals, truth and reconciliation councils, and transitional governments have sought to address sexual abuses perpetrated during and after conflicts, to give redress to victims, and to punish perpetrators. All too often, however, these efforts fall short and crimes of sexual violence are relegated to the bottom of a long list of war crimes. Victims rarely get their day in court, and perpetrators are rarely held accountable. This must change. These offenses need to be part of the official historical and legal record of countries so that victims are recognized for what they endured and to ensure the crime never happens again. We cannot let your voices and the voices of other sexual violence survivors be silenced through inaction or neglect. Impunity for conflict-related sexual violence must end. Perpetrators of this crime must know that every resource of the international community will be used to find them and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. There must be no place for them to hide, no excuse for them to use, and no one else for them to blame. Obstacles to justice for you as victims must be swept away. We can no longer deny redress to you as survivors because rape as a war crime did not exist when the offenses took place, or because the statute of limitation has run out, or because your cases were or are not well documented. We cannot allow you to be victims of sexual violence twice. By you being denied justice from a system that is supposed to protect you. Governments and judiciaries must give these crimes against you the full attention they deserve and prosecute them as aggressively as they will any other war crime and crime against humanity. Given the limitations of many of the courts in the countries from which you come, we must also be realistic and insist that your governments establish alternative mechanisms to address the crime of sexual violence. In addition, change must not only take place at the court level, but at the community level as well. The shame and stigma that you brave women have been subjected to is not yours, but the shame of the government and policies that fail to protect you. The shame must end, and your suffering and courage must be recognized. My office, the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict, stands ready to provide support to your government as well as to specialized mechanisms and civil society to ensure these crimes do not go unpunished, that your stories are not forgotten, and that justice, already denied for too long, is not ultimately denied. Finally, I would like to thank each one of you for having the bravery to come forward and tell your story. I want to assure you that you have the full commitment of my office and the United Nations in your quest for justice and for putting an end to impunity. Thank you.